violating the Bill of Rights, Constitution, wholesale. They're surveilling everybody. They're helping get Mutalib on the airplane. U.S. government admits they did. State Department admits it under orders. I mean, they're running the terror attacks. I mean, let's get down to the bottom line here. The government are the terrorists. They're the narcotics traffickers. They're the ones that are staging all this to turn us into a prison state so they can steal everything and then use the police state to suppress us. So it's very simple. They're terrorists. End of story.
Well, you know, these matters hopefully can be resolved short of trial, but I don't see, you know, my clients pleading guilty anytime soon. So ultimately, although, for example, I'm in the middle of picking a jury right now, and I must thank the judge for allowing me to have a 25-minute break to be able to talk to you. But in the end, I just hope that if this matter goes that far, and I can't imagine that it's going to, but it just might, that the jurors hopefully understand that their job is now to stand up for these, you know, young men and women who, at that time and throughout their careers, have stood up for their rights at the same
Absolutely.
time.
Gary, we've all got to get behind Colorado We Are Change and you. Fire out your website for us.
I normally have a website that I just keep semi-updated called gigisup.net. I've got some videos up there. I'll have an update for you in about a month with regard to a
all
new
right.
direction.
We'll talk to you again soon, Gary. Thank you. I want to get into the government hijacking your phones publicly. All right, here's just some of the headlines. Google wants to control your home. CNN, and they describe how everything in your house will track you. They will remote control it. They will watch you. Was Google 6 years ago admitted they're watching you over your laptop computer camera, and you tell people this, they laugh at you, even as public schools get caught nationwide watching kids at home. I mean, it's just, people are in a trance, folks. Why is this show so successful? Because I'm fundamentally angry and awake and threatened by these people, and I'm hopping mad. I was so angry this morning, I was able to run like twice as far as I'm normally able to. And I'm going to start just using my anger again. The government are terrorists. They've been caught staging terror over and over again. They're a bunch of criminals. We've got crooks that have hijacked the nation run by foreign banks. I told you, I'm getting so many emails, calls, media freaking out going, how did you know they were going to take over the cell phones? How did you know they were going to be breaking in on radio and TV, not during nuclear war, but with regular announcements and fear? How did you know they'd have public video screens going up saying, be scared? Because it's all been blueprinted. The government standardized all this in the last 16 years. I read the UN reports. I read the Internet 2 reports. I read what DARPA puts out. Folks, I remember 10 years ago, DARPA was in the Baltimore Sun and said, we've put up towers to test soothing people during riots. And it was just a nice little article like they were reporting on the painting of fire hydrants or the price of tea in China. Just real innocuous, the price of pork bellies. Oh, by the way, the government's testing towers in cities with magnetic frequencies that calm you. I mean, that's what I mean. It's already going on. I just can't believe how evil. They're so bold, though, and people can't admit how bad it is. They're poisoning our water on record. They're caught everywhere injecting people in third world nations where they can get away with it with live bioweapons. They're murdering Nazis. Nazi isn't even what they are. The Nazis were a spinoff of these guys. And they said, you're doing it too quick and too obvious. Bam! You got to learn to pose as a liberal. Like Margaret Sanger said, we got to pose as liberals to kill these weeds. Well, I got news flash for you. I'm not going along with it. Man, I can't even handle it anymore. Listen to these articles. Google wants to control your home. FEMA to confiscate food from local farms. From the U.S. government, Obama administration fights to allow warrantless GPS tracking. They got to do that because the phones are already doing it. AP, in Texas schools, a pitcher's worth 1,000 calories. A $2 million project starting in San Antonio, Texas, with smart cameras scanning the children as they eat. It can even tell if a pear is half-eaten. Of course, the health department and CPS are involved. And here it is. Illinois lawmaker says raising obese kids should cost parents a tax time. There's your kid tax, your one-child tax. It's just, The kids are growing up in like science fiction nightmares, coast to coast. They're watching them in the PE showers. It's like, yes, we have cameras in the showers. That's been out for 15 years. No one cares. Cameras in restrooms. They are training the kids to spy on their parents. They have them on computers under federal grants, write dossiers about their parents all over the country. That's in Police State to the Takeover, released in 2000. The actual documents of the towns where they get federal grants. They do it on computer. They write about home life. It's given to the government. I mean, this has been going on behind the scenes, and now they're getting ready to really launch it. Continuing. Big article, federal spy chips to hijack your phone. He links to CBS. He links to the New York Times. He links to London Telegraph, all positively going, yes, the government, you can't turn it off. It'll turn your phone on. If you're on a phone call or doing some work, the government's going to break in with announcements. It's the same thing with radio and TV. It will not be the EAS alerts once a week. It will be whenever they want. The local threat fusion center is going to love it. You build the radio station, the TV station, the local mayor and police chief and fire chief break in, taking over all the channels, forcing themselves in front of you, forcing themselves in your life. Federal regulations, all new clock radios have a shortwave transmitter in it, receiver, that picks up, so it's going to turn on and blare propaganda at you. The television sets, they're talking about making it the law to make you have these in your house. Total hell, total evil. Upwards of 100,000 preachers secretly hired, now public, to spy on their flocks, tell them submit to forced inoculation and going to FEMA camps and to turn their guns in. Military all being trained in their Sears training, how to torture now. That was declassified last week. Armies of evil, armies of darkness, giant Halliburton, DynCorp, child kidnapping ring, Chicago Tribune, AP, no one stops them. Pure evil, genetic warfare, live viruses being injected into the kids, just absolute bedlam, total control, total evil, everywhere, total rollout, smart meters tracking you in your house, data transmission over power lines, listening to in your home, through the light sockets, total control, total evil, chemtrailing, aluminum, brain damage, brain disorders, death.
We're on the march.
So, it's announced a long-term strategic program for all digital devices, all cell phones, all AM and FM radio, UHF, VHF TV, cable, everything to be wired with Homeland Security starting next month. It's already in place with takeover chips to break in, commandeer your phone. You have no choice. And then to beam government propaganda messages to you. You see, it isn't an internet kill switch. It's an internet takeover switch, a media takeover switch. And you have these mega corporations, the Fortune 100, on record advising government from Clinton, Bush, Obama, right through to today, in every case, lobbying to have these control grids put in the name of security, while meanwhile pushing to never build any of the border fence, to never put in the smart fence, to stall. Now, Bush started it. Obama completed it a month ago, signing the North American security perimeter. There won't be security on the Canadian or Mexico border. There will only be security from Alaska down to the southern Mexico's border with Guatemala. And the Ottawa Citizen reported deals have now been signed. We'll even put that on screen. Folks won't believe that. To use Mexican and Canadian troops inside the United States and vice versa to, quote, fight civil insurrection. Now, when you study these globalists in Serbia, in Libya right now, wherever they go, in Africa, in Latin America, in Asia, they always go in and create new super zones to supersede the original sovereignty of the original state. But then within those states, along ethnic and religious lines, racial lines, they send in the anthropologists that understand how to balkanize. The British wrote manuals on this 300 years ago. Julius Caesar wrote The Battle for Gaul over 2,000 years ago and broke down how they did this with groups who weren't racially different but were tribally different, had grudges. And so for 60 years, the Ford Foundation has publicly paid for textbooks, just like they were caught paying for textbooks going back 50 years ago in the Muslim countries, saying jihad, destroy America. That came out in the Washington Post 9 years ago. to radicalize the Muslims so we don't get along. So there's then a pretext to go invade those countries. Same thing here. They go into Mexico. We've covered the textbooks. We've shown them here on air saying the Southwest belongs to Mexico. Racial Aslan, our former mayor, Gus Garcia, there's video, declared it race day for Hispanics and said they are the supreme race. I'm a guy that cut my teeth protesting the Klan. I don't like the Klan. I don't like Mecha. La Raza means the race. But the thing is, the Klan, maybe 100,000 people that literally can't get up off the couch drinking whiskey from what I've researched and looked at. Led by some feds and things. They've been caught doing that, Hal Turner and others. Leading some of the white supremacist groups. It constantly comes out. Well, it's the same thing here, but you got the Ford Foundation funding this and teaching it. And I was on Mancow's show today, and he had a Mexican model on, and she was talking about Viva Mexico. I wrapped myself in the Mexican flag, and I said, hey, if Mexico's so great, a failed narco-terrorist state, why do you want to make it like that here? And then callers were calling in going, yeah, we are taking over America. Now, the media is trying to brand it that if you're Puerto Rican, Brazilian, Venezuelan, you're supposed to take on Mexican culture, which isn't even the official culture at all. This La Reconquista idea, this liberation theology, financed by the big tax-free foundations, Carnegie, you name it. We're going to Glenn Spencer here in just a moment. But I want to set the table with this. Now, the plan is just to get us at each other's throats. I wouldn't even really be against immigration at the record levels if they were taught the Second Amendment, liberty, freedom, property rights, anti-globalist, pro-America. And then if they weren't given welfare, which then bankrupts the country. But that's not what's happening. Over 90% of these illegals, when they become citizens or vote illegally, vote to take the guns for socialism, because the liberal groups that sell them the racial ideology that's so attractive to any human, it's ingrained into everybody, they piggyback the socialism, the gun control, the slavery. And so that's why there's a ticking time bomb. We've almost lost. Whether you're black, white, Hispanic, it's almost over. And we'll fall like Mexico, a tiny elite. It's exactly what J.P. Morgan, Goldman Sachs want. On record, they're the biggest financiers of this. They want you poor. So there won't be any Aslan. I mean, there'll be folks running around saying it is. It'll be New World Order on. But Glenn Spencer, I remember in Conquest of Aslan, his other films, 10, 11, 12, 13 years ago. I remember Glenn Spencer, who worked with Native American groups, helping them, who was a humanitarian guy in Mexico, seeing this La Raza, La Infosora movement. And I remember seeing Glenn, and you can look at his films online or get them on DVD from him, where he laid out on this show, in the DVDs, on his websites, AmericanPatrol.com, and other sites they have, that this was going to happen. Now, the Democrats, and it's racially motivated. I've had some of these state reps on and Congress people from Arizona, and they'll say, yeah, it's part of La Raza. It's part of the race. Yeah, we're taking over. Based in Tucson, they have a city council that admits that. It's racially based. They pull down American flags at the post office. Kids can't wear American flags at school. For 87 miles into Arizona, they have signs up saying, don't go into these areas if you're an American. This is basically now Mexico. Even Hispanic kids not allowed to wear American flags. Same thing in San Francisco. I mean, it's a war. And they've been taught no matter how horrible Mexico is and all the mass graves and the coyotes killing people, it doesn't matter. Rodriguez makes movies about where the ranchers are killing Hispanic pregnant women instead of the truth of the coyotes doing it. I mean, it's incredible. And now I wanted to get Glenn Spencer on because Glenn was right all along. Liberals in southern Arizona seek to form new state. Reuters, New Yorker magazine. Arizona liberals are trying to form their own tiny liberal state on the border, like the Russian-held Abkhazia or South Ossetia, as an area to project power into Georgia. 51st state, some in Arizona want to split. Now, when conservatives just want state rights back in, to just have states not completely run by the feds, it's called treason, it's sedition, secession, evil. But when they are seriously going to the legislature trying to get the signatures, and they won't get it this time, but it shows what they want, it shows where they're going, and then if you don't give them their ethnic homeland, imagine if white folks tried this, if you don't create these ethnic homelands, well, then you're a racist. And I'll guarantee you down the road are the big race riots, all of it planned, and large areas of the U.S. being broken off into this new multinational system. Now, he predicted it all. That's a 5-minute intro. Glenn Spencer, you've got the floor. You predicted all this with precision. It's now begun. Break down exactly what's happening with the conquest of Aslan, not run out of Mexico City, but run out of New York City.
Well,
Tucson, Pima County, part of the Aslan movement, Isabel Garcia.